24.16. The pound buys $1.27 and €1.13. LBC weather, heavy rain clearing eastern Scotland through tonight, but further thunderstorms will be moving northwards across southern, central and eastern England. Drier further west, a low of 11. Tomorrow much brighter and very warm again with a high of 29 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lisa Aziz.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, it's Jeremy Hunt who's making all the running yesterday up in Scotland, pictured in a fish market and eating fish and chips on a boat and writing columns in the Times newspaper this morning, appearing on Sky News, appearing on LBC with Nick Ferrari. Where's Boris? Well, I've no idea. He's nowhere to be seen. And not, of course, back at that apartment in South London, which the pair of them have been effectively hounded out of, which I think is pretty disgusting, actually. You know, protests in the street, things being stuck on Boris's car. I mean, that a 31-year-old woman feels too frightened to go back to her own flat, I think is a pretty bad story. But politically, Hunt making the running and Hunt raising 1 or 2 points. I wonder whether you agree with what Hunt said to Sky News this morning.
Well, I'm saying that it is cowardice, frankly, not to appear in head-to-head debates against me. Sky have invited us both for a debate tomorrow evening. I'll be turning up. It's very, very important that in the next 2 weeks, which are the only period that Conservative Party members will have to see us head-to-head before they actually get their postal ballots, that they have a chance to hear both of us answer difficult questions. And you can't become Prime Minister without answering questions about the decisions that you're going to have to take almost immediately you get through the door of number 10. And my worry is that Boris has got a coalition of people like Matt Hancock, who want no deal taken off the table, Mark Francois, who wants no deal. That coalition will dissolve very, very quickly indeed when he has to take some actual decisions. And sometimes in politics you can fudge, but on Brexit you can't. There are going to have to be decisions, and that's why it's very important that a new Prime Minister has a mandate, has actually spelt out exactly what they're going to do.
Well, I'm not sure what decisions actually Jeremy Hunt would take as Prime Minister on Brexit, but that aside, the basic point where he accuses Boris of cowardice, he asked for Boris to man up. He says that Boris is slinking through the back door into number 10 by not having these face-to-face debates. Is he right? Is he wrong? I happen to think he's got a fair point. I mean, I really do. I think there should be a head-to-head contest. It's all well and good doing the hustings, and we saw that on Saturday with LBC's Ian Dale in the chair. He was the inquisitor. There were questions from the floor, but there was no head-to-head, no face-to-face engagement between Hunt and between Johnson. And in the next 15, yes, you heard it, the next 15 hustings that they're going to do over the course of the next month, it'll all be the same format. They'll all be separately dealing with questions. So I actually think Hunt, on this point, if nothing else, is right. I think he is right when he says Boris is slinking through the back door into number 10, and it's wrong. But you tell me, if you think Boris is right to avoid debating Jeremy Hunt, you call me on 0345 6060 973. If you think that Jeremy's right in calling him a coward, text to 84850 and tell me, if you got a chance to put a question to either of them, perhaps it'd be the same question, I don't know, what would it be? Please tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and of course Facebookers, you can watch us and comment there too. Now, Boris hasn't been totally absent because his Daily Telegraph column did come out this morning. And he says 4 times in this piece, we can, we must, and we will leave on or by the 31st of October. So he's kind of toughened up the rhetoric again, having got a little bit soft on it. And of course, what Jeremy Hunt wants to do is to say, well, look, Boris, that's all well and good, but you've got people like Matt Hancock in your team who were Remainers, who couldn't contemplate leaving on no deal. How are you actually going to achieve it? And, you know, in the context of the fact that this guy's likely to be our next Prime Minister, it does really matter. Now, I still think that Boris will win, because look at the electorate. There's been what's called the blue wave over the last few months, and that's lots of people Leave.eu supporters, former UKIP supporters, who in the last 6 months have flocked into the Tory party because they wanted to have a say on the next Prime Minister. They're all going to be hardline Eurosceptics. They're not going to vote for Jeremy Hunt, it seems to me, in a month of Sundays. So I still think that it's with him in the Tory party, but I wonder if he continues to hide away from open debate with Jeremy Hunt, what would it do to him in the country? And I know that actually most people think his private life should be his private life. Maybe answer the question about why the police were called and why they left so quickly. But when it comes to the politics of this, somehow this has damaged him, because in the polls he is down. Polling yesterday, polling today, suggesting that amongst the public his rating has fallen quite sharply over the course of the last 4 or 5 days. And I think that if he goes on playing this defensive game over the course of the next month, and bear in mind it's not until the 22nd of July that we'll get the announcement of the new PM, I think this could do him a huge amount of damage in the country, if not amongst that Tory paid-up membership. That's how I feel about this. I really do think that Jeremy Hunt has got a fair point. He should man up, and he should face Hunt live, in face-to-face TV debate. He really ought to do that. That is my view. Hi, Mr. Farage. We should judge Boris on his politics, not his private life. Bill, I'm doing exactly that. I'm not judging him on his private life. I am saying that given that the police were called, he should on Saturday have said, look, the police were called by malicious neighbours looking to cause trouble. They came, they saw there wasn't a problem, they left. Thank you very much. It's all over. I think by doing that, Bill, this might have gone away a little bit more quickly than it has. Instead, they're now putting out photographs of them sitting round a picnic table in the middle of the South Downs. Whether that's the right approach, I sort of somehow rather doubt it, really. Nigel, I think Boris has totally blown it by not speaking to anyone and refusing to do the debate on Sky. Not how a future PM should behave. He needs to be at one with the people, says Anne from Sunderland. Nigel, considering, I get on Twitter, the last 2 televised debates, why should he bother? Because they were shocking to say the least. Paul, that last BBC debate was awful, with, half a dozen of them sitting on those bar stools, badly handled, bad inquisitors, but, ever since, for nearly 60 years in America, presidential candidates have faced off. In fact, Clinton and Trump did 3 of them. We're beginning to expect that to happen in this country. And I think given that the rest of the country don't get a vote on this, I would have thought we should see the 2 facing off. That's my view. Let's see what you think, because that matters a lot more. Let's see what Mario in Enfield, a new caller to the show, thinks. Good evening, Mario.
Hey, Nigel. Big fan. Big fan.
Good evening. Well, kind of you.
Just wanted to say that I don't necessarily agree with you on whether Boris should take place in the TV debates.
Okay.
Mainly because, at the end of the day, Conservative members are going to have to make this choice. He only needs to kind of answer to the Tory electorate at this point. So answering to the whole nation when there's not a general election going on is irrelevant for him and his case at the moment.
But Mario, he could be about to become the Prime Minister. Don't we?
Oh, I agree.
I mean, don't we deserve?
I agree with you,
don't we deserve, after the last catastrophe? Don't we? Where there wasn't an election, there was an appointment of Theresa May. Given that there are 2 contenders here, isn't it fair and reasonable? Even though we haven't got a vote at this stage, isn't it fair and reasonable to see those 2 in action together?
Well, Nigel, at the end of the day, you've campaigned for a number of years. You know that you need to campaign quite tactfully, and I think that's what Boris is doing right now. Now, don't get me wrong. I'd
what, by hiding?
You in the number 10.
What, by hiding, Mario? Are you suggesting that the route to prime ministership is simply to hide so you don't trip on a banana skin?
He's doing the hustings. He's answering to the Tories who are going to be the ones picking, choosing who the next leader is.
He's doing the
now.
hustings.
He only needs to answer to them at this point.
Well, I know that's technically true, but don't you think the rest of us deserve better?
Does it really matter at this point, Nigel? I mean,
of course it matters.
We just need to be Tory members to just pick him.
Well,
really,
I tell you what, Mario, a lot of people have joined the Tory party, so they can vote in this contest, and that's why I still think he'll probably win. But what's the point of winning if over the course of the next month your reputation is trashed in the country? And that's, I think, what he's in danger of doing, hiding away, not avoiding face-to-face debate. It's doing him harm, Mario.
It is, but at the end of the day, I mean, he seems to be having the popular vote with the Tories at the moment, and at the end of the day, it's a clear choice between a Brexiteer as Prime Minister or another Theresa May in trousers as Prime Minister. So it doesn't really matter at this point who it's going to be.
Oh, Mario, should we all just go on holiday and forget about the whole thing?
I think, Nigel, we need a general election, like you've been saying for some time.
Yeah.
And we need to get the Brexit Party on that ballot paper.
Well, I think that will happen, but I think the real key here is if there was a general election, and Jeremy Hunt's already said he thinks a general election would be a disaster and Corbyn would win. If Boris was to face down Parliament and to go for a clean exit on the 31st of October in an early general election, Mary, I think he'd win. But if he hasn't got the courage to face Hunt face to face, would he have the courage? Would he have the courage, Mario, to call a general election?
I don't know, but at the moment, the way things stand in Parliament, the numbers just don't add up for a deal or no deal or anything. So at the end of the day, we're going to have a general election.
At some point,
status quo as it is.
At some point we are. Mario, thank you for your call. Margaret on Facebook says, I think Boris is scared that he'll mess up. Well, that's clearly what his minders think. Arch says, of course his private life matters. He wants to be PM. Arch, I think most people say, do you know what? Actually, within reason, we don't care about people's private lives too much. Certainly not as much as we used to. And Scarlett says, Boris seems to be too blasé about going head-to-head. I don't think he's blasé. I don't think he's saying it doesn't really matter. I think he's worried he might make a terrible mistake. Will just says, look, let's stop wasting the next month. Crown Boris now. No, I don't think so. I want to see a head-to-head debate. Tell me whether you think I'm right or not. 0345 6060 973. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:15 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
Jeremy Hunt's supporters have called Boris Johnson a bottler for refusing to take part in a planned TV debate tomorrow. President Trump's imposed new sanctions on Iran targeting the supreme leader amid increasing US tensions with the country. A man's been jailed for at least 12 years for pushing a 91-year-old onto London Underground tracks. LBC weather, heavy rain clearing eastern Scotland tonight, but further thunderstorms will move northwards across central and southern England, a low of 11 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. Long delays continue on the North Circular Road westbound to Edmonton because of that accident that happened. There's one lane open now, but it's still very slow all the way back to the Kenninghall interchange. Queues still of about an hour on the M1 northbound up to Junction 10 at Luton Airport following an accident, and very busy on the M23 southbound to Junction 9 at Gatwick Airport, and that was following an accident. All the lanes are back open. It's still not looking good on the A13 eastbound to Barking, and that's because of the roadworks. And on the Underground, the District line suspended between Upminster and Whitechapel.
This is LBC.
Looking after your money can money feel like every money thing you do is all about money, and it gets in the money way all the money time. Let us take you and your money from to get money calm. Money Supermarket.
This is LBC.
So much confusion. This deal or that deal. Why can't so much be simple? It does sound like a bargain. What if you're being ripped off? Confused.com guaranteed to beat your renewal quote, helping you rise above the clamour of comparison sites. It's that easy. Beat your renewal quote guarantee, or you'll get the difference in an extra £20. Don't be confused. Be confused.com. Full T's and C's online. Single annual policies only.
There's nothing like meeting face-to-face. And there's nothing like Zoom to make that happen. Zoom lets you connect and do business across town or around the world. Zoom ties together all of your communication needs into one easy platform for video conferencing, phone calls, group chat, webinars, and your conference rooms. Connect easily from anywhere, your mobile phone, your laptop, or conference room. Zoom is how business gets done. Get your free account at zoom.com today. Meet happy. with Zoom.
Get Vodafone's double data deal this summer. We're giving away double data on all pay monthly smartphones. Yes, all pay monthly smartphones. Now a huge 30 gig for the price of 15, starting at only £30 a month. Double the selfie sharing, double the playlist pumping, and double the maps mapping. To get double data, go online or in-store today. The future's exciting. Ready? Vodafone. Terms and details at vodafone.co.uk/summer. Ends 9th of July.
At the AA, we're always trying to make your journey better. Our mechanics fix 8 out of 10 cars at the roadside, usually within 30 minutes of arriving. You could say we're simply the best. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong song. Join today from just £4.50 a month. Visit theaa.com. The AA, because anything can happen. New customers only. T's and C's apply.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
So Boris is a coward. He's a bottler. He's trying to slink through the back door into number 10. He should man up and face questions from Jeremy Hunt. These are some of the things that Hunt has said about Johnson today in broadcast interviews. Johnson is doing no interviews of any kind today, but he has written a piece in the Telegraph saying unequivocally and clearly, we must absolutely leave on or by the 31st of October. Now, clearly, what the strategists are doing here is saying, look, Boris is massively in the lead. Let's just play safe. He is going to win, particularly in a party that is overwhelmingly Eurosceptic now, and lots of new former Leave.eu and former UKIP members have joined in the last 6 to 9 months. So it's easy, no problem. It reminds me, a few years ago, Greg Norman, the great white shark, the Australian golfer, he was 6 shots in the lead with 1 round of the US Masters to play, that title that he coveted so much. And the whole world was saying, look, it's finished. It's all over. There's no point anyone going out, really, because Norman's playing so well. He's so far ahead. And he went out in the last round and he tried to play a different game. He tried to defend. He tried to be really, really cautious. As a result of it, he completely loused up. And through the middle came Nick Faldo and beat him in the end comfortably. And Boris, think about it. You didn't get where you are in politics by hiding. You got where you are by being extrovert, by being funny, by being out there, by having charisma, and by making some mistakes, which you've generally been quite good at laughing off. I mean, Boris got to be where he is because he was Boris. He's not doing that. He's defending, he's hiding, he just doesn't look happy with himself. The mojo's gone. That's what I think. Nigel, I'm a Tory member, and I think Bojo needs to be careful. I don't think he is trustworthy and strong enough to get us out of Europe. Jeremy does seem honest and genuine. Not sure what to do. I bet there are lots of people quite like that. Clearly, of the two, Boris is by far the more Eurosceptic in a party that is very Eurosceptic, but nothing in life is a complete shoo-in. Boris needs to man up, or he may face risk throwing his reputation, if not the race away, says Thomas. Hayley is calling from Edinburgh. Good evening, Hayley.
Good evening, Nigel. How are you?
I am well. I really do think that Jeremy Hunt, when he says he doesn't give a damn about Boris's private life, but he does think he should come and face him on Sky News tomorrow night. And by the way, Sky News, Hayley, have now cancelled that debate because Boris's team wouldn't confirm. Mm-hmm. Doesn't Hunt have a point here?
I think he does have a point. Obviously, Boris is hiding away. He's looking like a mouse, and the public have got a right to know what he's like if he's going to be running the country. So he should face up and answer any questions he gets asked. But I can also see the other side of it, where we're all entitled to have a private life. Yes. Anyone in the public eye is going to be in media.
Yes.
But I definitely think he should be up there. He should be up there answering questions. If Hunt is, why isn't Boris?
Yeah, and clearly, there are tough questions that Hunt could throw to Boris and very tough questions that Boris could throw back to Hunt. It could be something genuinely interesting, but we're not going to get the chance to do it. And there is an ITV head-to-head debate that is scheduled in the diary for the 9th of July. But the trouble is, Hayley, by then, the postal votes will all have gone out to Conservative members, and probably most of them will have voted by then.
True. And I heard you say, what question would you ask?
Yes. Yes.
Right, this is what I would ask him. I would ask him, obviously, looking at the different interviews he's given in the past, Freemasonry. Now, it's a subject I don't hear very often mentioned on any radio, any platform.
Right.
And I would ask him, are you a Freemason? Because of the handshakes that you see people do in certain
would you ask
power.
Would you ask both of them that question?
Yes, I would do.
OK, Hayley, if we get the chance, we'll ask them whether they're members of the Freemasons. Thank you. Well, I don't get that often put to me, but hey, there we are. Nigel, to be fair, Boris has shown he's a bottler when he went back on his vote for Mrs May's treaty. Ollie, this is my big problem with him. People keep saying, oh, Nigel, I'm sure you're going to support Boris, and isn't it going to be wonderful, and with your support he's going to be in a great position. But, Ollie, I'm like you. I don't trust him. Why should I trust him or anybody when he says twice he's going to vote against the treaty, and then on the third time of asking, he votes for it? Difficult. Ben is a new caller from Wolverhampton. Good evening, Ben.
Good evening.
So, should Boris be in that debate tomorrow night or not?
I believe so. I believe right now the people are considerably hurt by the choices of Miss May and how she has chosen to betray Brexit by extending the deadline, which was supposed to be the 31st of March. And now this
29th of March it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. 31st of October is the next date.
Yeah. Get my dates mixed up. And so, because of this, I believe that Boris Johnson needs to demonstrate his policies and needs to restore this trust, which currently you have demonstrated in the European election, which you've demonstrated. You now have this trust of the people, essentially, and that he needs to regain this trust that has been lost from the Tories, which has now obviously left. It's gone to you, it's gone to the Green Party, it's gone to Labour, it's gone everywhere else.
Yes, the breakdown in trust isn't just of Mrs May, it's actually of the Conservative Party, isn't it?
Of course, however, Miss May is the head
She's part of it, yeah.
So, of course, heavy is the head that wears the crown, and thus she, as the face of the Tory party, she's gained all the scorn, as one might say. And the tactic which Boris is trying to use is trying to be very out there. It's trying to be very truthful about what he thinks. And I believe it's a tactic that was shown in 2016 by Donald Trump. However, Trump was very sure. He was not only just truthful, he was very out there. He was very public. He was very seen, which we haven't seen of Boris Johnson. He's refused to do these debates.
But you see, Trump won the primaries by winning the head-to-head debates. He won the primaries on live TV, doing those debates in different states all around America. He wasn't frightened of doing it, and I'm afraid Boris is. And Ben, your point about the loss of trust, really interesting. Given that the country's been thinking it's a complete shoo-in that Boris is going to win and take over, I think it's very interesting that since this contest started, the Conservative Party poll ratings are up, on average, just 3%. Now, if Boris is a shoo-in, and that's as good as it gets, Ben, I think he's got a lot more work to do. Ben, thank you for your call. Going down to Dorset, to Gillingham, to speak to Bradley. Good evening, Bradley.
Good evening, Nigel. I'm not going to ask how you are, because everybody asks that, and I guess you're okay. What I'd like to say, Nigel...
I'm all right. Yeah, OK, Bradley, thank you.
I'm all right. I'll carry the ladder.
Good.
What I'd like to say is, believe it or not, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm actually behind Boris, right? Because he's cheated, okay, he's been sacked, he's had domestic problems in his flat with his girlfriend. He's like 98% of Great Britain. He's one of us.
Yes, Bradley, I think...
He's on our level.
Bradley, I think that's right, and I think that's, in terms of he's had a row with his girlfriend, I mean, crikey, who hasn't had a row?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Who hasn't cheated? It's brilliant. It's brilliant news. And
I'm not sure we should be advertising that part of it, but Bradley, the fact that he's a sinner, like all the rest of us, I get that. But Bradley, if he's got these wonderful human characteristics, and if he's got similar flaws to many of us in the population, why not appear tomorrow night on live television and debate head to head with Jeremy Hunt? After all, the prize is being Prime Minister.
Because it's in the bag, he's already got it.
Right.
He doesn't have to. It's already been decided, Nigel, before we even know about it. There you go. And I'll tell you, Nigel, I could do this, right? I could go down my local pub, grab 8 drunks, offer them all a Jaeger bomb each, form my own cabinet. There you go. And I would be in the running and with the same principles as what that lot have. There you go.
Right. Well, I mean, if a couple of Jaeger bombs are all it takes, hey. But Bradley, whether it's in the bag or not, don't you think that the public of this country deserve to see the choices on offer to be our next Prime Minister, to hear those arguments being debated fully in public? Don't we all deserve that?
It would be, I suppose, but then again, I've just seen a lady yawning on the side of the road. It brings me to my next question. You say, if you'd like to ask Boris one question, what would it be?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. Was it that exciting listening or talking to Ian Dale the other night on telly than it is for us listening to him on the radio?
Oh, well, that's a bit... I think that's too cruel, Bradley. That's too cruel. And look, actually, most people, Bradley, take the view that Dale chaired it very well. But, you know, you can never please everybody. Tell you what he did do, he asked Boris the same question 6 times and got no answer, which I thought was slightly odd. Bradley, I thank you for your call, even if not for your comment about fellow LBC presenter. Leo says on Facebook, we should just admit what our government has become and get Simon Cowell to pick the winner. Sandy says, why should he go on any of these biased debates? It will be him who gets the bigger bashing. Well, I think the slight difference here, Sandy, is that it is just 2, and what people really want to see are the face-to-face interchanges, the questions being asked of each other. Yeah, sure, Kay Burley will ask questions. Sure, Kay Burley will ask about the row. Sure, she'll ask, why were the police called? Yeah, that isn't very difficult to predict. She'll probably ask Jeremy Hunt, how is it you thought your wife was Japanese when she's actually Chinese? I mean, all those awkward questions get asked, and you know that before you go on. But what's really interesting, I think, is the question, to Boris, how will you get us out by the 31st of October, given that many of your supporters say they could never support the concept of a WTO Brexit? And the question to Jeremy Hunt, if you're prepared to extend beyond the 31st of October, would we ever get Brexit? I mean, these are the kind of questions they could be asking each other, with Kay Burley in the middle. I think it would be a real good event for all of us that care about the next Prime Minister to watch, and I think it's very disappointing that Johnson is taking this position. Come on and tell me I'm wrong, but for now, you're listening to The Nigel Farage Show. It's 6:30 and time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
Jeremy Hunt's supporters have called Boris Johnson a bottler for refusing to take part in a planned television debate tomorrow. The Tory leadership event will now be shelved if the former Foreign Secretary decides not to turn up. Mr Hunt says his rival is avoiding public scrutiny over his Brexit policy. President Trump signed an executive order targeting Iran's supreme leader and his associates with financial sanctions amid heightening tensions. It's after the country shot down an American surveillance drone. A man's been jailed for at least 12 years for pushing a 91-year-old man onto London Underground tracks. Sir Robert Malpass, a former Eurotunnel executive, was shoved onto the rails at Marble Arch last April by Paul Crossley, suffering head injuries and a broken pelvis. LBC weather, heavy rain clearing eastern Scotland through tonight, but further thunderstorms will be moving northwards across southern, central and also eastern England. Drier further west and staying muggy for many with a low of 11 degrees.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7. LBC.
Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt, would you review some of the words you use to describe your rivals, such as coward and pathetic?
I stand by every word I said for a very important reason. This is about the Prime Minister of our...
Don't be a coward, Boris.
Yes.
Man up and show the nation you can cope with the scrutiny and so on and so forth.
Yes, because this is someone who has refused difficult media interviews. There's going to be more scrutiny in that job than anything that either of us have ever experienced in our life.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With Xero, get your business digital ready with Xero accounting software.
LBC.
We use the internet all the time. We can't help it. But isn't it annoying when it's, a bit slow? BT Superfast Fibre is so reliable it now comes with its own Stay Fast guarantee, which means we'll give you £20 back if your speed isn't everything you've been promised, morning, noon and night. For fast all the time, not just some of the time, search BT Broadband today, tonight or tomorrow. BT. Be there.
New customers, we guarantee the speed to your hub. £20 if you can't fix in 30 days. 4 claims a year, exclusions apply.
At the AA, we're always trying to make your journey better. Our mechanics fix 8 out of 10 cars at the roadside, usually within 30 minutes of arriving. You could say we're simply the best. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong song. Join today from just £4.50 a month. Visit theaa.com. The AA, because anything can happen. New customers only. T's and C's apply.
So, your accountant does your audit for you, looks at your accounts, calculates your tax, stuff like that. But would you benefit from long-term advice, an expert to look at your business model and help your business grow? And most importantly, someone to look after you, the owner. At Barnes Rofe, our partners get to know their clients and want to become part of their team. Is it time to see what we can do for you? Arrange your free consultation at barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe, clever accountants for business.
Block management. 2 very simple words. But what do they actually mean? Well, there's budget approval for starters, then service charge invoices, health and safety paperwork, cleaning, gardening, maintenance, inspections, contracts, insurance, emergency call-outs, and a whole lot more besides.
So for complete block management solutions, just remember 3 simple letters: ABC. ABC Estates will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry. See abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688. Clearance at John Lewis & Partners Oxford Street is now on. There are thousands of great offers, from kitchen and homeware to fashion and beauty, as well as expert advice from our partners and a minimum 2-year guarantee on all our electricals. More of what you love for less. Clearance now on.
At Indeed, we understand that when it comes to hiring, it's important to have a large talent pool to choose from. But sometimes too many good options can be overwhelming. That's why Indeed doesn't just give you access to a large pool of job seekers. We also offer screener tools that let you instantly narrow down your search. Hone in on hiring with Indeed. Experience Indeed for yourself today and get a free sponsored job upgrade on your first posting at Indeed.com/redeem. Terms and conditions apply.
Leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag FarageOnLBC.
Sky News are pulling the debate tomorrow night that was supposed to take place between Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt. I think it's rather a pity, and I think Hunt is right to call out Boris on this and to say that he's trying to slink through the back door into number 10. I don't think it's a good thing. But before we go back to that, some really bad news today for Remain conspiracy theorists. You know, those who ever since this very day, 3 years ago, it was the 24th of June, 3 years ago, dramatic day, David Cameron resigning and complete chaos and global shock that we'd voted for Brexit. And, of course, ever since then, there have been all sorts of conspiracy theories as to why this happened. Well, one of them got a really good kicking this morning from, of all people, the former Deputy Prime Minister, Sir Nick Clegg, who is now head of global affairs, of course, for Facebook. Here he was speaking this morning.
There's absolutely no evidence that it happened in the Brexit referendum. We ran 2 full analyses of all the data we have in the run-up to the Brexit referendum, following exactly the same methodology as we did after the FBI notified Facebook of outside interference in the 2016 US presidential election. We've shared all of this information with the Select Committee in Westminster and elsewhere. We have found no evidence of a significant attempt by outside forces.
Which means no Russia. No, the Russians weren't there. I'm sorry to all of you who've been pumping out these theories that the Russians, through Facebook and through massive cash donations, influenced the Brexit result. Isn't it? It must be a very sad day for you. But when the head of global affairs from Facebook, and particularly when it's the former Remainer, Sir Nick Clegg, Deputy Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Democrats, there is no evidence. It was a vote which one side won and which 3 years on has not been enacted. And that's why we've got this big situation in the Conservative Party with a new Prime Minister coming in a month's time. And that's why the whole country deserves to see the final 2 on our television screens over the course of the next month. I really do believe that. Boris has to face down Hunt If he doesn't, it gives ammunition to the Hunt camp. And my goodness me, we don't need another May. Delaying, fudging, denying democracy. David in Northern Ireland. Leaders don't get scared, they lead. To think that Boris sees himself as some kind of Winston Churchill is laughable, says Matt in Sidcup. Yeah, he's sort of Churchill without the courage, I'm afraid. Boris should turn up on the Sky debate. He has to answer certain questions if he wants to be the PM. It goes with the job, says Kathy. Well, most of you, not scientific, but most of you so far this evening would like to see that head-to-head debate taking place tomorrow night. I certainly would too. Peter is a new caller from Richmond. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Nigel.
Right, so is Boris right to avoid this debate? What do you think?
I think he's right to avoid as much head-to-head with Jeremy Hunt as possible. I think Hunt's only tactic is really to get into hypotheticals with Boris until Boris has to admit that he would have to call a general election,
right?
If he can't get no deal through Parliament,
right?
And I don't think that's something he needs to telegraph to the Europeans right now. I don't think it's something he needs to telegraph to the Conservative Party members necessarily right now. I think holding that closer to his chest, I think, is a very, very valid tactic at the moment. He is inevitably going to win this race. And going to Europe with more of a blank slate and with a more credible no deal threat, I think would be to his advantage, not to mention everybody else's.
Well, Peter, I could argue that the other way. I could say, actually, if Boris Johnson said, look, if my own party are not prepared to back the result of the referendum, and if we don't leave on the 31st of October, it will have catastrophic consequences for us. Just look at our vote in the European elections in single figures.
He's already said that.
But if he was to say, if we carried on, Jeremy, down this line, I would call a general election. And I would win a big majority for a clean break Brexit, because it is by far the most popular option now in the country. That actually might make Europe even more worried.
Well, I think Europe would be. First of all, I'm not convinced Europe won't give a better deal to Boris Johnson if they feel that he has an instinct for a clean break. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure that they won't. I don't buy the argument that Europe won't open up the withdrawal agreement. The idea that Europe would rather see Britain leave the EU with no deal than just put a time limit on their backstop.
But Peter,
seems ridiculous.
But Peter, number one, I don't think they will open up the agreement, and certainly not before the 31st of October, because the new Commission doesn't come into the 1st of November. But on the other issue, I think the EU are pretty confident that this Parliament will not allow. There are no circumstances in which this Parliament are going to allow a clean break Brexit. The only way, and I really believe, Peter, the only way we get a clean break Brexit is to have an autumn general election under a Prime Minister who is absolutely clear that if you vote for us, this is what we're going to do.
Well, I think you might very well be right. I don't say that you're not probably right. But at the same time, we've got the spectre of Corbyn looming, and Hunt's tactic is to try and scare the Tory faithful or the Tory party members into not having an early inevitable general election.
Well,
and I think while there's a possibility that Johnson can pull something off with the EU, I think I don't think it needs to be necessarily spelt out.
Okay, no, Peter, I get your point. Your view is Boris shouldn't do that, shouldn't show his hand, as it were, and Hunt would make him do so. I get the point, don't agree with it, but I do get the point. Now, Thomas says to me he's going to use a cricket analogy to describe Boris and Hunt. He is bowling wide and short deliveries to a number 11 when he should be bowling the Yorker to kill it off. Well, let's hope England can do a bit of that against Australia tomorrow. And Angel is calling from Twickenham. Hello, Angel.
Hello, Hello again. I think I can't stay away, can I? I think we spoke a few days ago.
We did.
About,
I know. So
inevitably about the same thing. Swirling round and round and round. I thought I'd ring back in actually. Well, first of all, to say. I've always had sort of, relative differences with you politically, right? But your show has somehow become one of my guilty pleasures.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear it, Angel.
Yes, it's the Farage show. So,
Good.
It's a damn good show, though, and you're a very, very good radio host, I have to admit.
Well, that's very kind of you. Now, moving on from that, because I should go all red and be embarrassed, right. Angel.
So, I actually, as I said, I disagree with you on certain other things, but in this, I think it's really more a matter of principle. I think you're right. I think he should be able to, face the other contender, because I think, I don't know, I feel like there's an element of sort of disdain for the people voting and also the broader public,
Yeah, I mean, some of the arguments, Angel, he's got it in the bag anyway. He doesn't need to bother. The only voters that matter are Conservative. But what about the rest of us?
Coming from, because as I think I told you the other evening, I think that too. I think that he's a shoo-in, but it still doesn't detract from the fact that the broader public and also indeed the people voting for him deserve to see him in action, so to speak.
I just think it's fair. Angel, I think it's fair on the rest of the country. That, I think, is the point. And I think,
indeed. And I mean, if you're talking about sort of such a big job as PM, obviously it really matters. And I think I said, the other evening, we are in unusual times, and times are sort of quite volatile.
They certainly are. Angel,
I think people essentially deserve.
We deserve better than a cancelled debate on Sky News tomorrow night. Angel, thank you for your call. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It's now 6:45 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
Jeremy Hunt's supporters have called Boris Johnson a bottler for refusing to take part in a planned television debate tomorrow. President Trump's imposed new sanctions on Iran targeting the supreme leader amid increasing US tensions with the country. A man's been jailed for at least 12 years for pushing a 91-year-old onto London Underground tracks. LBC weather, heavy rain clearing eastern Scotland tonight, but further thunderstorms will be moving northwards across central and southern England, a low of 11 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. Still only one lane open on the North Circular Road westbound to Edmonton because of an accident. There are huge delays from the Crooked Billet interchange, but all the surrounding routes are very congested as a result. The M25 is very slow anti-clockwise from junction 25 at the A10 to 24 at Potters Bar, and that's because a car has broken down. And long delays continue on the M1 northbound to junction 10 at Luton Airport, and that was after the accident, but all the lanes are now back open. Very slow on the A13 eastbound in Barking because of the roadworks. There are long delays on the approach, and on the underground there are severe delays on the Central, the District and the Hammersmith and City lines.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
Some Tory MPs are threatening to bring down their own government in a confidence vote by supporting Jeremy Corbyn. Have they gone stark raving bonkers?
Ian Dale on LBC.
Air pollution is one of the most significant challenges facing inner and outer London, affecting the health of us all. LBC, together with Transport for London, will be finding out more about the issue and what's being done to address it. This week, Sheila Fogarty spoke to Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan.
All I say to Londoners is I'm afraid you can't see this killer, but it is a fact now confirmed by evidence that we have thousands of premature deaths each year in our city. If we do nothing, experts say from King's College it will take 193 years for our air to be within legal limits. With our policies, we'll get there by 2025.
Watch the full interview and find out how you can help reduce air pollution in the capital at lbc.co.uk.
You can complain free to your lender or the Financial Ombudsman about missold PPI. Alternatively, if you haven't got the time or the inclination, then just get the claims guys to manage the claims process for you. With the August 29th deadline approaching, time's at a premium anyway. So if you can't find your paperwork or you're not even sure you have PPI, it's definitely time to make a decision and start your PPI claim before it's too late. Text ANSWER to 66777. Text ANSWER to 66777 now.
The Claims Guys. Get Vodafone's double data deal this summer. We're giving away double data on all pay monthly smartphones. Yes, all pay monthly smartphones. Now a huge 30 gig for the price of 15, starting at only £30 a month. double the selfie sharing, double the playlist pumping, and double the maps mapping. To get double data, go online or in-store today. The future's exciting. Ready? Vodafone. Terms and details at vodafone.co.uk/summer. Ends 9th of July.
We use the internet all the time. We can't help it. But isn't it annoying when it's, a bit slow? BT Superfast Fibre is so reliable it now comes with its own Stay Fast guarantee, which means we'll give you £20 back if your speed isn't everything you've been promised, morning, noon and night. For fast all the time, not just some of the time, search BT Broadband today, tonight or tomorrow. BT. Be there.
New customers, we guarantee the speed to your hub. £20 if you can't fix in 30 days. 4 claims a year, exclusions apply.
And now, before the next programme, a short poem written and read for you today by the celebrated poet Trevor Jones, simply called Life. Who knows what it really means?
Means. Beans. Oh, delicious Heinz beans on piping hot buttered toast. Now that's poetry.
Dreaming of the unique taste of Heinz beans with no added sugar makes it better.
Have you received financial advice to move your pension? You may need a pension check to see if you could be due thousands in compensation for the losses due to unsuitable advice. If you were advised to transfer out of your final salary pension or into a SIP, Money Redress could help. Money Redress are one of the leading claims management companies with a 5-star Trustpilot rating. Text YES to 82344. That's YES to 82344. You don't need to use a claims management company such as Money Redress to make your complaint, and there's no guarantee of a more favourable outcome if you do. You can refer your complaint to the Financial Ombudsman Service or the Financial Services Compensation Scheme for free.
In the trade, sign up to Wix Trade Pro and get 10% off every time you shop with no minimum spend. Download the app to register. Always cheaper with Wix Trade Pro. Terms apply.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
So some of you are saying these debates are rubbish anyway. Pat says they're a joke. Look at the ones we've already had. Bill in London says, I disagree with you, Nigel. The interviewers have lots of ammo against Boris, but they'll go easier on Jeremy because he's a Remainer. Well, Bill, you might be right, but you know something? What's really interesting isn't so much what the interviewer does in these debates, it's how the two face off against each other. That's the body language. That's the thing that we're looking for more than anything else. Maria makes a very similar point. She says, if the interviewers treated Boris and Hunt equally, then maybe Boris would turn up. Also, she says, isn't Carrie Symonds entitled to a private life? She isn't running to be PM. Maria, the thought that a 31-year-old woman with an apartment in South London can't go back to her house because people are picketing and protesting outside the house is nothing short of disgusting. Lawrence in Northfleet says, I'm worried about wannabe prime ministers who said TV debates are a good thing and I support them, only to then chicken out of them. Well, Lawrence, you're right. Boris in the past has backed these debates. Let's go to Plymouth and speak to Dave, who's a new caller. Hi, Dave.
Hi there.
So, is Boris right not to turn up tomorrow?
Well, I can understand why people are calling him a coward. It's right before the Tories vote for their new leader, and the people of the UK want to see what the next potential leader is going to be like. But at the same time, not many people know much about Hunt. Not by comparison of Bojo anyway. People know what Bojo stands for. They know what his policies are. I think he's been fairly clear on that. And at this point, I think Hunt stands a lot more to gain from a debate than Bojo.
Do you think we're clear on where Boris stands on the third runway for Heathrow? Because I'm not. I literally haven't got a clue. Do you think we're clear, Dave, on where he stands on HS2? I'm not. I haven't got a clue. And when it comes to, we'll sort the backstop out after we've left stuff. Dave, actually, there are lots and lots of questions, real questions that Boris has willfully, deliberately not given answers to. And you're quite right. The country, does not know Jeremy Hunt anything like as well. But isn't this a chance to get to know him?
I think you make very good points. I mean, he does have a bit of a habit of dodging questions, some of these important questions. But at the same time, there's also a fair argument to be made that a lot of these debaters, some of the other callers have sort of mentioned, they don't even get down to the brass tacks a lot of the time. It's almost just a sort of insult slinging contest of talking about all this stuff in his private life recently. I think that's a perfect example. You're absolutely right. He does dodge a few questions, but at this point he's got it in the bag, and whether he turns up on a debate or not, it's not going to I don't think it's going to have.
It's a bit cynical, Dave.
Difference.
It's a bit cynical, isn't it? It's a bit cynical.
It could be. No, as I say, I see why people want to see Bojo, but
you
can understand why he wouldn't want to get involved in the debate too.
Fine, I get it, Dave. I thank you. Peter on Facebook makes a very similar point to Dave and says, I don't think Boris has anything to prove to the country, only to his membership. Yeah, OK, in terms of the narrow confines of this particular vote, you're right, but don't we deserve to see our potential Prime Minister squaring up? I am sticking with this. I believe it. Carol is calling from Sleaford in Lincolnshire. Good evening, Carol.
Hi, Nigel.
Hello there.
I'm one of the Blue Rinse Brigade, I think we're called.
OK. So you're a paid-up Tory member, Carol?
I'm a paid-up Tory member, and I paid up long before all this malarkey went on.
Yes.
I have to say, once this is over, I'm an ex-member, but that's by the by.
Okay.
I'm a leaver.
Uh-huh.
So everyone's saying that Boris is a shoo-in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I think he's not particularly trustworthy. I think he lacks substance. I'm disinterested completely in what went on in his flat, but I think the way, I won't go there, but the way that's been handled by him and the media has been fairly poor. I'm not influenced by that, but what I'm influenced by is what he actually says and does. And I look at him, he apparently is a leaver, but he wasn't until the last minute before the referendum.
That is true.
He didn't vote for the treaty twice, but then he did on the third time.
Mm-hmm.
And taking it all into account, I listen to the little he says, and I don't see very much substance going on. So I'm really conflated by the whole thing.
Will you, Carol, will you as a Tory party member go to any of the hustings meetings or not?
Oh, yes, and I've had, in fact, an email through from Brandon Lewis, where I think they're doing debates on Facebook, and members can sort of ask questions and comment and all the rest of it. And I will, if he comes to the East Midlands, I will probably go along and listen.
Okay.
But I'm very worried, if I'm honest, about his character and his honesty. I'm not particularly, as I say, all his bumbling and fluff I'm not worried about, but I am worried about his lack of substance.
So, Carol, you are, clearly committed. You've been a long-time member of the party. You're a...
No, don't get me wrong. I'm out as soon as this vote's over. I'm gone.
Because
I'm a Brexiteer, and I don't believe that the Conservative Party are going to deliver Brexit.
But surely, Carol, as a Brexiteer, you have to vote Boris, don't you? Or maybe not.
Well, you would think so, and this is where, when everyone's been phoning in saying, "Oh yes, he's a done deal," I'm not actually certain.
Okay, Carol, very, very interesting. Thank you. You're hearing that, Boris? There's somebody who calls herself a blue rinse member of the party from Lincolnshire and a leaver, and she's not convinced by your arguments. Perhaps you better go on Sky tomorrow and do that debate. Let's go to Isleworth and speak to Sam. Good evening, Sam.
Good evening, Nigel.
So, should Boris Johnson appear in a head-to-head with Hunt tomorrow? I think he should.
Yes, I definitely think he should, but I think Bojo has lost his mojo.
Yes, I do too.
I think that, avoiding scrutiny like in any form, I think he just shows he's lost his backbone. Seems like he's either they've clipped his wings too much, or they're just holding him back from making a mistake, and it's hurting them.
Yeah, it's like Samson, isn't it? Really, he's had his hair cut off. That's the way that I look at it. I agree with you. Clearly, the team are holding him back, but actually, when he appears himself, he doesn't look or sound like Boris used to, does he?
That's it. I just think there's something different about him, and I don't know if it's his lifestyle or if the personal life has come into it, or the way they're managing him is not working. It's just not working. And if I were them, I wouldn't just think it's a shoo-in either, like the last caller. I think that Hunt could sneak through now because, we want a rousing leader. We don't want somebody going to the EU with no deal looking like a coward, because they're just not going to believe him, are they?
And I wonder, Sam, even if Boris does still win in the Tory party membership, that a month more of him being seen to hide, actually could do him great damage in the country, couldn't it?
Exactly. I just think that we are heading for a general election either way. I think, if Hunt gets in, I don't think he'll be able to deliver anything further than Theresa May. And I think that eventually someone's going to, bring the government down, whether it's all of them or themselves. I think that a general election is on the scene. And I think Brexit Party is probably plan B for everyone who is a Brexiteer, I think.
All depends who becomes the Prime Minister and what position they take, I guess. Sam, I thank you. Patrick from Guildford says, imagine the headlines back in 1990 if they'd read John Major overheard smashing crockery. How would this have affected his leadership bid back then? Oh, he'd have got more votes. He was so dull, it would have actually made people think he's quite lively. Now, Evelyn says, the point is the membership will elect Boris. He doesn't need to say a word if he's serious about the 31st of October. And that's the second one tonight that said, look, actually, he's keeping his cards up his sleeve. All right? I understand those of you who are making that point. I just do not buy into it. I think, actually, the British public are being swizzled a bit here, aren't they? They deserve to see those two candidates going head-to-head. That's what I think. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Tonight at 10, it's Tom Swarbrick. But up next, it's Ian Dale.
That's a word you don't hear often, swizzled nowadays.
Quite old-fashioned,
I like
isn't
that
it?
word. I might
Word of
adopt
the day.
that. Nigel, thank you very much. Well, coming up over the next 3 hours, yes, you guessed it, we're going to concentrate on the Conservative leadership. I hope you had a very quiet weekend. As you've probably seen, I had a very quiet one too, not. Now, some Tory MPs, a dozen of them, are threatening to bring down their own government in a confidence vote by supporting Jeremy Corbyn. I wonder whether you think they've gone stark raving bonkers. Should they be careful what they wish for? We'll be asking that.